Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willa here. Today I want to talk about exactly why the release date for TBC and the pre-patch have landed on the dates that they have, because they do feel as though they're coming more than just a little bit early, with in its entirety less than 1 month between the announcement, which is on the 5th of May, the pre-patch, which will be on the 18th of May, and the release date, which will be on the 1st of June. A quick Google later and it's not difficult to turn up some answers which could have indeed influenced decisions. Among the many games due to come out in June 21, one of them that we have is Elder Scrolls Online Gates of Oblivion, which is due to come out on the 1st of June, a direct competitor for the MMO market, which could take a few players away from the launch of TBC Classic. Is this just a case of Blizzard being the big mean bully trying to muscle out other games, or is it just a bit of coincidence, because they have ended up hitting more than one title with this release date of June 1st. The Ashes of Creation Alpha 1 was originally planned to be at the start of June. Now, I have been following this game for some time in the background as I'm quite intrigued by what they're doing there, and this would have been the first non-NDA release to the public, and I believe it's critical to them that they do steer clear of any other competing major releases at that point in time. Whilst the game will be in an alpha version, so in no way indicative of the final product, literally every single big streamer content creators surrounding MMOs will be playing this when it comes out. It's going to be a very big deal, and a first look for an enormous amount of the public to see what the game could be all about in the end. And indeed, since World of Warcraft's announcement to release BC Classic on the 1st of June, Stephen Sharif, the creative director from Ashes of Creation, has actually decided to move the non-NDA testing from the start of June over to July, just so it does steer clear, which is a great decision in my opinion, because on one hand it is another delay to the game, which is a shame for people that have been waiting to get their hands on it and be able to share it with others. Conversely though, it doesn't force people to make a choice, especially the larger content creators, of what they wish to be doing at that point in time. Stephen even noted himself, funnily enough, on the post that the forethought in Blizzard's mind was most likely going to be on their quarterly earnings report over anything else, which fortunately, if you're not reliant on a board, you don't have those kind of constraints, which would be really nice to see more of from a player point of view. Now, as we all know, Classic on its release was enormously successful. I think it has far surpassed what Blizzard could have ever hoped from it, and I think they have really underestimated how many people wanted this game, and it served as a hell of a lot more than just a bit of nostalgia, since when are you nostalgic for something for 18 months straight? You're not. So that's not what nostalgia is. Nostalgia is this brief feeling that you get. You remember what it was like, you remember perhaps why you stopped doing it, and then you leave it again. But people haven't been leaving Classic so much, they've been really sticking with it, and BC is going to surge up those numbers once again. And on the release of Classic, it tripled subscribers for the World of Warcraft franchise. Now, whilst I don't think TBC will be nearly as hyped up in comparison, because let's be real, the launch of Classic was totally insane. Anybody who made any form of content in any capacity ever hopped on that train to get a bit of that. But regardless, it's going to bring a lot of people back who maybe quit during an earlier phase of Classic, or newer players who will be able to catch up very easily now thanks to the Dark Portal Pass. But speaking, as Stephen mentioned earlier, around quarterly reports, those are something to definitely keep in mind. Now, for those not in the know, the end of quarter 2 of 2021 will be the end of June, so 30th of June, giving Blizzard a full, solid month worth of revenue and exposure from Burning Crusade Classic, and a huge opportunity to bolster their performance for the end of the quarter, as if they were opposed to, you know, do a release at a reasonably normal date, that is. And the average pre-patch duration in WoW is usually around 1 month long. They're usually a final home stretch to drum up some hype, get the subs rolling back in, get people used to their new class changes, or that was the case prior to Legion since everything's temporary power gain now, but it would have been true for TBC at least, and do whatever the pre-patch event is. We've had some really memorable pre-patch events actually, like the Scourge Invasion #2 from Wrath of the Lich King, or the Legion invasions to power level alts in, well, funnily enough, Legion. I thought that was a lot of fun too. And I managed to find this online to give you a bit more of an idea, and Shadowlands did end up being a month and a half in the end, but it was delayed. Initially, if they followed the original schedule, it would have been a month, which is very par for course as far as pre-patch duration goes. So our TBC pre-patch is quite literally half the duration of the shortest pre-patch World of Warcraft has ever seen. I would have been okay with 1 month. It would have given me plenty of time to level my Draenei Shaman, and a few raid resets with all the huge class changes. Maybe even it would have been a little bit of insight into how Classic Plus could have been. So what gives? Why only 2 weeks? Why is the announcement date and the release date within the space of less than a month? It just feels so incredibly rushed. What gives? Well, first of all, the game will be easier to roll out than Classic. They've done all the back-end work to get Classic working in the first place, or at least Omar Gonzalez did. Not that he works at Blizzard anymore, of course. Maybe they just want to get it in the players' hands as soon as possible. We have been playing Naxxramas by the time the pre-patch is out for 6.5 months, which, funnily enough, is longer than Naxxramas existed in actual vanilla between the pre-patch. Back then it was around 5.5 months total, so it is dragging on a little bit, and players want something new, which is understandable. That's how MMOs work. So is Blizzard just meeting the customer's demand and getting things in our hands as soon as possible because we want something new, we want something fresh? Or is it more about trampling the competition and trying to make Q2 look great for the company? On top of that, imagine back at BlizzCon when we were told we would be given enough time to level our new Draenei and Blood Elves. Even with the changes to the leveling speed made in 2.3, which will be in from the launch, you need to be playing a sort of not having a full-time job or any other real-time commitments for those 2 weeks in order to hit level cap, or at least level 58, I should say, unless you're getting boosted up by somebody else, that is, then obviously it's going to take you far less time. Or maybe you just completely ignore the possibility of playing that new race and instead you just boost up the main that perhaps you didn't have time to fully cap out during Classic. It does put people under pressure to a certain degree to make a decision sooner rather than later, because whilst I can appreciate the idea that if you take your time leveling and you're not ready to go through the Dark Portal day one of release, you're probably going to have a much better launch experience than the average person fighting over scraps of metal and hellbores in Hellfire Peninsula. But you can't really recreate that big hype and rush that you just get with the start of an expansion. I would take the potentially worst gameplay experience to make something more memorable, because when launch day happens, I sure as hell wouldn't want to be in Silithus killing Scorpids. Time is ticking away though. As of this video, there are still plenty of ongoing issues unknown. You know, aside from the monetization stuff, I'm actually happy with the changes that have been made to TBC Classic so far, and I think they will pan out to be positive in the long run, or so I'm hoping at the moment at least. I reckon for the decisions Blizzard have made around the pre-patch duration and the launch date, it's largely focused around making their second quarter look very good. But a number of other things have lined up around the same time, where there are several advantages to them releasing on June 1st. The main thing I wish they would have done is just given us more time in some capacity, even after they announced the actual launch of the game. If they did the pre-patch a few days later, whilst people would have been outraged about that, because that wouldn't have been a good thing to do either, at least we would have had more pre-patch. Or if they could have just, you know, announced this whole thing a lot earlier than they have at the moment. I don't know why it's felt like it's came such at the last minute, and I can only imagine how many people are scrambling to see if they can get time off work given this much shorter time frame now. So it definitely does feel like a disservice for the community at the expense of Blizzard having nicer looking spreadsheets in about a month and a half time, which is a shame, but you know, Blizzard. That's about it though, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think below, if anything, about the timeline and why you reckon they're doing it. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.